Does he love me? Does he love me not? He loves me. He loves me not. It's the age-old question we've been asking, I know, since I was a little girl.
What's that? Does this person love me or not?
Yeah, how do I know? How do you know if you're in love?
That seems like it's a question that's been popping up here quite a bit.
Yeah, it has. It's been going on around for a long time. And so today, we're going to give you some indicators and some things to think about to know, does he or does she really love me or not?
Coming up next on this episode of the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee. Welcome to the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil
and Renee, where amazing things happen. Our goal is to help build, repair, and restore healthy relationships.
Our primary focus is on the marriage relationship. However, the topics are applicable to the relationships that we value most. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.
How do you know if the one that you're involved with is the one?
Is there really a one?
You know, this question kind of comes up a lot, and one of the things that we kind of talked about before we even started recording the episode was, do you believe in love at first sight?
I believe that there's attraction at first sight.
Okay. But not love.
No.
You don't believe somebody can just see somebody and say, oh, I love you. Kind of like you did with me when we were first.
Let's just break it down. You can be in love, in like, or in lust.
Okay.
And so you might be in lust at first sight, but rarely ever are you in love at first sight.
Okay.
It's just attraction.
It's just attraction. And that's what we're going to be talking about on this episode of the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee. And it's kind of really centered on, really, if you think about it, commitment in your relationships. Mm-hmm. You know, we try to always focus on what is this really talking about and what area is this talking about. And I think it's really focused on the commitment that you have in the relationships that you're in, whether you're married or single or engaged or thinking about it. Mm-hmm. So that's what I think.
Yeah, because I think a part of it is that I can remember that's one of those questions that I think everyone has asked. I mean, that's one of those questions I think everyone has asked at one point in their life. How do you know if you're in love? And, you know, what is love? And what do you look for? And so I think that it's important. There's a scripture that comes to mind. And I think a part of it is that we have to, I've always read this, I've always heard it, I know it was important. It's in 2 Corinthians 6:14. It says, do not be unequally yoked with unbelievers. Or what do righteous and unrighteous have in common? Or what fellowship does light have with darkness? Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you can take that from biblically what it means is not being unequally yoked. But it could also mean, if you translate it into just layman's term, look for the things you have in common.
Yeah, and that's one of the things we're going to be really talking about, because as we were even thinking about and talking about the show, that's one of the main things as the commonality marker.
Because you can be attracted to someone, but not necessarily be compatible, because what makes you compatible are the things that you have in common. So when people say opposites attract, attraction, again, is really only a feeling. And so while opposites may attract, what makes relationships last and long lasting, if you're really honest, is what you have in common with someone.
But before we even go to what's in common, it's always that initial attraction.
Yes.
I think is what really gets people attention. You know, it's always important to want to have that physical attraction, mm-hmm. you know, where they say the sparks fly and those things where they get the butterflies in the stomach. And
all those are so nice.
And they are. And, mm-hmm. and I think it's necessary.
It is.
It's important when you are in a relationship with somebody that you are attracted to them, I would think, physically.
Yes.
Because if not, it's going to be hard to kind of move forward towards the other things that we're going to be talking about during this episode, because you can't get past the first thing.
Right. And I think a part of it is just, you know, how do you know if you love someone? I think that it is really more about how do you know if that other person has the same level of commitment and feelings that you do, because love really is not just a feeling.
No.
Love is a choice. Mm-hmm. And there's some things that have to happen in order for you to do that. And like we talked about, the first one is being attracted to someone.
You know, and I think most people stop right there.
Yes.
They stop
and
right
then
there.
They go into sex.
Right.
At attraction.
And that's important in a relationship, you know, the physical aspect of it. But when you stop there, it doesn't give the relationship time to develop in the other areas that are going to be neglected, because you've kind of had your dessert before you had your main meal that's really going to sustain you and build you. And it's going to lay the foundation that you need for your relationship, because you went straight to the dessert.
Yeah. And a part of it is understanding that it has to have something to be built on that's going to last. Mm-hmm. And while sex is a part of a relationship, it's designed for the marriage relationship because it does affect your ability to be objective.
Right.
And so just because you're attracted and you're having sex,
right,
it does not mean that that is love.
Because as long as we've been together, it's going to fade. Not the sex life necessarily, right, but the physical attraction. You're going to always be attractive to me, mm-hmm, you know. But when you think about at the very beginning of our relationship, that initial spark and that fire and that all those things that's
it's
great.
Ebb and flow.
Yeah, it is. It's great to have, but you know what? I'm not as physically fit as I used to be, and
but you're
so
still fine.
You know, you hear women talk about it after they have children.
Your body
physical
changes.
Right? All those things happen, which means it's going to fade. You know, and
beauty fades.
It does, and it doesn't mean that you still won't have the physical attraction to each other, but mm-hmm, maybe the first thing that caught your attention, maybe their physique or their shape. You know, it was the one thing that made you go, hey, mm-hmm, you know, but now as the years and the time has gone by, it fades.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people ignore, that it is going to fade.
Yeah. And so therefore you can't base your whole life on physical attraction alone. You can't base your whole life on sex alone. Mm-hmm. You have to base it on the other things that really let you know if you're in love with someone. And if I had to say one of them, I would say the most important part of knowing if it's really love is there's going to be a very important element, and that element is called trust.
Right.
You have to have trust.
Right.
Trust is very essential in really building relationships that last. And so if you ask yourself the question, is it love? Is there trust?
If you don't have the trust, it's not going to last.
Mm-hmm. Because while the physical attraction can fade and while the frequency of the sex can diminish, trust has to grow and be built upon. And it has to be based on not you being in denial, mm-hmm, but you trust that when they say they're going to do something, that is this person a person of their word? Mm-hmm. Is this person have integrity? You know, while the physical attraction will change, the love for their character should be constantly growing. And that's what you have to focus on, is their character. So trust is a very important part of kind of knowing, well, do they really love me? Well, can you trust them?
Well, that leads into what you just mentioned, the character aspect. Mm-hmm. I think about when we were dating and we were just young people, younger, that is one of those commonalities that you have to have, mm-hmm, is the character qualities. And I think sometimes people confuse a charismatic personality or this person is very engaging, mm-hmm, and the traits of the person and their personality with their character.
And there's a difference between your personality and your character. Your personality is how your character is represented or displayed. But just because your personality is outgoing, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have character.
Because I remember seeing the guys when I was growing up, there were some guys who were just smooth. They got the lines. They know how to approach someone. And I was like, man, that guy he's smooth, you know. But I know behind the scenes how they really were. Right. You know, and it's not to put anybody on blast, as we would say, but their character said something that their charismatic personality didn't display. Right. You know, they were, as we used to say, fake in the funk. Yes. They were fake in their presentation, mm-hmm, when, you know, they were sleeping around, right, had multiple girlfriends, or wasn't a person of their word. Like you said, they say they're going to do A and they don't, or B and they don't show up, mm-hmm, and those things. And that's a part of the personality, the character, the things that you have to have in common with someone. And as a wise person said, when somebody shows you how they are,
You better believe them.
You better believe them.
And also to understand that people, the things that they do make sense to them. And the reason why it may not make sense to you is because you might have different values. You might have different standards. And so when we're talking about how will I know if this person loves me, or how will I know if I'm in love with them, trust, you look at their character, and then you're also going to look at their relationships.
Talking about family and extended family,
their family.
And even their friends.
The people that they hang around. Because when you love someone, it makes your life fuller. When it's really love, it's not that it's going to be perfect, but it's just that the people around you that know you and that know that person are going to be willing to accept you and accept that other person. Because I think about when I first we were dating, I was asking my godmother, well, how do I know if I'm in love with him? And, how do I know? And one of the things she said, well, I love him. She said, I think he's a great guy. I think that what you see is what you get. So a part of it is not just that you're going to make that decision alone, because when you really are in love with someone, or it really is love, it's going to add value to all of your relationships.
And one of the things I asked myself when we were dating, and I did this internally, and I don't know if I've even told you this, was I thought that I had a lot, even during our dating cycle, and it came up over and over and over again. I would ask myself this question: could I see myself with you long term? And that's a hard question to ask when you have the physical attraction with someone, and you think you have the commonality, and hopefully you're not confusing that with the character versus the personality.
Yes.
But that was something that I asked myself: could I see myself with this woman or this girl at the time long term?
Yeah. And another good question to ask yourself is, can I see my life without this person? It wasn't until you left and you went to the military and you went away, and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't live without him. I
that's
miss him.
I like the way that sounds.
I can't live without him.
That's okay. But we're talking about how will you know when you're really in love, or you're on a track to that thing. We're going to talk about a little bit more on this episode of the Rich Relationship Podcast. But one of the things that we wanted to talk about right now is some of the things that we have coming up.
Yes.
And first of all, we always like to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, God. Thank you to all the people who are part of this amazing community. You guys are the best part of the Rich Relationship community, and we are so excited and grateful to serve you. We want to announce that we released the cover of the book on the 27th, and so we officially have a launch day, and we want every single one of you to join us. It's going to be on October the 7th from 12 until 1. It's going to be online. It's going to be virtual because we have a new normal, and so please, you guys can watch it streaming live from our website at Rich Relationships Us. It'll be on YouTube, it'll be on LinkedIn, but you can join us and physically be there at the Zoom meeting, and we'll send the link out. The link will be available on the website as well, but we would love for you guys to be a part of it. And we're just excited about all the different places where the podcast is being displayed.
New platforms.
Yeah, new platforms.
We're going to be showing up on, that we made some additional additions on.
Yes, we'll be on Babby Mason Radio.
That's awesome. That's because of the relationships, and that's great.
Yes, and we're going to be on
Hair Talk Radio.
Hair Talk Radio.
And actually, that was a good interview we had this past week.
Yeah,
and actually,
it
turned into possibly a regular segment where we're going to be on there once a week now, going live.
Yes, going
live. Not just
where
you can call in and ask questions, and we can have a conversation.
Ask Gil and Renee.
Yep. It's going to be on there. It's going to be interesting. Going to be fun.
It's going to be fun. We're going to probably get caught off guard. And we were actually also going to be on Nikki Wood's radio show soon, her podcast. So that's coming up. We'll let you know about that.
Right.
But there's just lots of opportunities for us. And again, we're going to be live every Saturday night on Facebook at 8 o'clock.
So that's open to everyone.
Everyone,
you can just
please.
Link on,
you don't have
on.
to be married. It's for everyone who wants to be a part of a relationship.
And we're going to be talking about the things that we talked about on the previous episode. Yes. So this week we're going to be talking about lying to me.
Yes, lie to me more.
So we're going to be talking about that. And you already mentioned the Facebook Live. But again, we always like to say thank you to all our listeners and people who send in questions and people who have talked to us personally and said thank you. And because that's what this is all about, is just helping people with their relationships, because we all need help.
Yeah, so this week we're going to be talking about, is it love?
Next week.
Yes.
We're going to be talking about that next week.
Yes.
Gil and Renee Beavers' over 30-year relationship is the genesis for the Rich Relationship Podcast, which is designed to empower individuals with the tools, principles, and the community needed to unpack ourselves, our past, and our preconceived notions associated with relationships.
Let's get empty and grow together so that our lives will be filled with love and healthy, rich relationships. Now let's go into our show.
So we're talking about,
does he love you?
how will I know?
How will I know?
The question that a lot of people have always asking about, how do you know when this person you want to spend a lot more time with, or even maybe a longer commitment with this person? That's something that we want to talk about during this episode. That's what we've been talking about. We already talked about a little bit of the physical attraction.
We talked about
and some of the things in common.
Trust. And so what would be another element that you would know, you would think about, is to know if it's really love?
One thing comes to my mind is when you are in this relationship with someone, is you have to be able to have those past conflicts and things resolved in your past, because that can have an impact on your future.
Yes.
So how will you know? Think about that. You may want to ask, not even of the person that you're in a relationship with, ask it of yourself. Have I resolved all the things that could jeopardize or cause problems in my relationship with this person that I really care about? Because if not, it's going to be an impact. So many people, especially if you think about it, what if you had maybe children, or you've had unresolved past issues with other relationships that you haven't really closed out, so to speak?
Right.
And if you haven't done that, or if you find out that the person you're in relationship with hasn't done that, that's going to be a issue. Yes. So how will you know? Have you asked yourself that?
Yeah.
Do I have any unresolved personal internal conflicts?
And I think what's important, I would say a very, very important element, and I remember someone telling me this, is that you really can't love someone else until you love yourself. Mm-hmm. So I think that just looking at, life, 52 years old, been married for 31 years, did hair for 28 years, dealt with people, and just your military time, all the years of us being in relationships with other people, I think the biggest issue in knowing if you're in love is knowing yourself. Because I think that when you don't know what you really want or who you really are, you might just be in like, or you might just be in lust, because you haven't really negotiated with those core values, those core, I call them I got tos and I won'ts. Mm-hmm. So I think before you can really love someone else, and you hear that, well, how do you love yourself? You love yourself by having some boundaries. You love yourself by saying, I won't settle for this. I think that it's important to be able to make sure that when you're saying you love someone, that you love them based on their, like we talked about, their character. Can you trust them? Are they in other healthy relationships? Because all of those are indicators. And so, and it goes back to you're saying, I don't want to be in a relationship with someone who has children. If you love yourself, you won't compromise that.
I would say in the simplest way, just ask yourself, do I have any deal breakers?
Yes.
Do I have anything will be very, very, very difficult for me to look past, get over, or accept this person as I'm going into a long-term relationship with someone? I think about when I was on active duty in the military, and I had guys working under me, and I was a supervisor, and I always used to just like to drive by, because they were usually a little bit younger, and they were dating and those types of things. And I remember a question that perplexed a lot of them, and that I used to ask them, what is the purpose of dating?
Yes.
While they are in the midst of actually dating other people, I asked them, what is it the goal? What is it why are you dating? What is the purpose of dating? Just to get their perspective. I had my answer.
Yes, of course. You don't ask a question without an answer.
Yeah. My answer, my response to that was the purpose of dating is preparation for marriage.
It is.
Simply put, that's my viewpoint, obviously. But you think about it, why would you date somebody and want to invest time, effort, energy, emotional, physical,
financial?
Yeah, those things. I was thinking about the word that I wanted to use for that one.
Financial, yeah.
And not say this is going to be a long-term commitment, a long-term situation. And it was amazing how many different things that I heard. You know, the term friends with benefits popped up. That kind
That's
of
in lust. That's in lust, y'all.
That
That's in
goes
lust.
back to number one, the initial physical attraction.
Right.
You know, some of them would say just to have fun. Some of them say just
That's
to hang
in
out.
like.
Some
That's
of them
in
just
like,
to hang.
y'all.
Yeah, just to hang out. You know, it was a myriad of different things that we heard, or that I heard at that time. And it was just, and when I presented them with my response was, it's preparation for marriage. It stumped a lot of them.
Yeah, it's like, what? I've been using this the wrong way.
Yeah. You know, you think about that when you use something that was not designed or intended to be used in a different way.
That's what abuse is. Abnormal use.
Abnormal use is it transforms or translates, and it's abuse. So you're abusing something that wasn't designed to be that way. So how can you realistically expect it to work the way you intended it to work?
Right. And a very, very, very important part of you'll know, it takes this other T, which is time. You need to see them in different seasons. You need to see them in different scenarios. You need to see them in different stages of their life. And so love grows.
Yes.
It's something that it has to be nurtured and cared for. And so another way to know if you love someone, there should be a certain amount of time that has gone by that you know them in every season and stage of life. It doesn't mean it has to be forever. Answer the question, is there love at first sight? No, because in order to have love, you have to have trust and time.
Right. And that's a good point, because if you go back and look at your own situation and own lives, how many situations were you in, or relationships were you in, where it seemed like it petered out before it really got started? Did you invest enough time to get to know each other? Did you invest enough of the intimacy from the physical, but not just the physical, but the emotional aspect? And when I say physical intimacy, and this is primarily for the guys, because guys, we tend to think physical intimacy is all about sex.
And it's not. Because, again, I said all the time, you can have intimacy without sex, and you can have sex without intimacy.
Right. And the reason why I bring that up is because it's not just the physical interaction of intercourse. It's just, you can be holding hands. That's physical intimacy.
Yes.
You can be snuggled. That's physical intimacy. And that's building trust.
It is.
And that's going to make the woman feel more comfortable.
Yeah, and safe.
Yes, absolutely. And so I wanted to make that distinction, because seems to be, from couples that we talk to, it's almost like just like, what do you mean? Physical intimacy and emotional intimacy.
And emotional intimacy is so very, very rare, because most people don't have a very high emotional IQ.
And we did an episode on that one.
Yeah, we talked about, go back and listen to that, about upgrade your EIQ. And so these are all the things. So love is not something that you fall into. Love is something that grows, and it's cultivated, and it takes attention.
Right.
And so that's another thing you have to think about. Do you have this person's attention? Do you both feel are you in love with them and them in love with you, or are you just in love with them? Because another thing about love is that it's mutual.
It should be reciprocal.
You're going to feel the same way. It's not, and maybe not at the same time.
Right.
But it's going to be where, I remember we watched the movie, talk about it before. He's not that into you. She's not that into you. If you're in love with someone, it's going to be something that is reciprocated. It's not going to be you're stalking them, but it's going to be you both can't wait to talk to each other, and you shouldn't have to force it. It should be something that person naturally chooses to do. And another important is you're the priority. I think about when we were dating, how you made the decision when you got off work, we'd spend time together. Yeah. You know, it was a choice. We chose to spend time together. So, you know, I didn't have to call you and stalk you and make you, ladies, let him pursue you.
It should be, and then because
he should be the pursuer.
That's intentional. Even when we were going through the dating phase, I thought about and planned and made intentional steps towards those things. Yeah, you know what your schedule is going to be. Right. You know what you have to do. And even then you have to communicate sometimes if you have commitments that are outside of your relationship that you have to make. Your spouse or your significant other should understand that, but you still have to make it a priority. Yes. You have to make it intentional in investing the time, the effort, the energy because it's going to build the trust.
Yes.
It's going to build the intimacy. And all those things that are essential.
Right.
When I say essential, I mean they are vital to your relationship, because if you don't have them, you're probably not going to have a relationship very long.
Yeah. And so you'll know that you're in love when you have trust. That person, there's been some time that's passed. You're their priority.
Right.
You share the same core values and beliefs.
Right.
The people who you love and care about have embraced and loved that person. Because normally when the people who love you don't love the people you love, it's because they see something that you might not see. So,
and you got to be willing to listen to
yes.
that. You know, every time there are going to be personality conflicts. That is
yes.
just normal part of being human.
Right.
But when you have someone that is giving you warning signs or warning signals, someone that you trust that has been in your life probably a lot longer than
and
the person.
And who knows you better than the person you're dating.
That has been in, that's where I was going, been in a relationship with you longer than the person that you're currently dating or seeing. You should at least listen.
Yes.
And listen and take their confidence in counsel to the heart. Yep. Because if not, you won't come back and say, ooh, yeah. I wish I would have listened.
Yes. And so a part of being in love is that it's going to add to your life. It's going to make your relationships better. So some of the ways you know you're not in love or it's not a healthy relationship is when you're being isolated from everyone.
Right.
Or when there's a lot of control. When the person is trying to control you, and the other person is trying to isolate you, when the other person is talking down to you or making you feel less than.
Right.
So these are the things you want to be aware of. And so you'll know that you're in love, not because of a feeling, not because of the butterflies and not because of the sparkles in the sky, but because of these things we're talking about. And so, yeah, love is wonderful and it's beautiful. But remember, love is a choice.
It is.
It's a commitment.
It is.
It's not just a feeling. And it's something beautiful. It's something that grows and makes your life better. It makes your relationships better. And it makes you better. Because
that's the whole goal. If you are in a relationship with someone, you want it to be better than it was with you by yourself.
Yes.
It should be. It should challenge you.
Yes.
It should be encouraging to you. It should build you up. You should see something in this person that is going to bring value to you. Not like a business merger or anything like that, but something that will bring value that you know, because you've done some personal inventory, you know, I lack a certain discipline in my life. Right. And this person does that for you. They help you get better than you are by yourself.
Because I know I'm better as a result of
absolutely. I'm absolutely better because of you in my life as my spouse, you know, and my wife and the love of my life, because I know there are things that I could not have achieved or are going to achieve because I have you.
Yeah, and I agree. I know that most people, again, we talked about opposites attract, but really it's not opposites attract. It's what makes you stay together is what you have in common. It's your character. And those are the things I love about you. While our personalities are different, our character is the same. And that's why we've been able to be best friends, husband, wife, lover, and even working together.
So we gave you a little bit to think about with How Will I Know?
How will I know?
Hopefully it'll help you decide and understand and maybe even look at some of the things in the relationships that you're in, and you will know.
You will know.
And so I love the point that you made, and I think it's awesome because you said love is not a feeling, it's a commitment.
It's a choice.
It's a choice. And so is you choosing to listen to us on this episode of the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee. We appreciate you guys so much. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for your investment in time. Remember to subscribe to the show and hit the notification icon to be notified when new episodes are posted on the podcast platform that you're listening from.
Or you can always find us on our website at richrelationshipsus.com or our YouTube channel, Rich Relationships with Gil and Renee. If you found this podcast helpful or you think it could help someone that you know and care about, please pass it along and share it with them.
And also, you can always send your questions and comments to richrelationshipsus.us@gmail.com. This is a weekly podcast, and the new episodes are going to be posted on Monday by 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Remember, we're stronger together.
Let's grow.